What's up guys, Witkomon here, and this is a Samsung Z Flip. That's right, this is a phone that folds. So already, you'll definitely get some attention with this thing. But I don't know if that alone will be enough to turn every single head in the room. So I had an idea. A way to make this phone unlike any other. A first and only in the entire world. And to achieve that, well, you read the title of this video, right? And Posca paint markers just so happen to be perfect for working on glossy surfaces. So I think you know where this might be going. But wait, there is one more thing. You didn't think I'd keep this phone for myself, did you? Because, believe it or not, my dad's phone still has an actual physical keyboard on it. So why not make this his first real smartphone? But of course, not before we customize it. And without further ado, let's turn this phone into a Pokemon card. So the first thing I'll need is a reference, and there's no better Pokemon for the job than Charizard. I want a card with an iconic Pokemon, but also an iconic design. So after some searching, I think this one would be perfect. Imagining this on a phone, it just screams Pokemon card to me. So let's go ahead and send it over to my iPad and see if we can't work a little bit of magic on it. As always, I'm using Procreate to make my digital reference. This is what I'll be using to look at while I'm doing my actual painting. So essentially, it's the digital version of what we'll be doing later. First, I'm extending the Charizard artwork, and then I'll need to adjust the template so that it fills the phone and matches its dimensions. It sounds simple enough, but let's see how it turns out. This reference is important, because a good one will hopefully mean less mistakes later on. That said, it doesn't need to be perfect, so I think I may have gone a little overboard here. But now that we know what the artwork is going to look like, let's grab a pencil and actually sketch it out. I really lucked out here. Because as you can see, the pencil is actually working, and quite well at that, which is not something I would typically expect from glass. So let's hope the rest of this project continues to go just as smoothly. Though somehow I doubt that'll be the case. The awesome part about a sketch is that the possibilities are endless. Everything is fluid, and nothing is set in stone. Who knows what this artwork will look like in the end? But as we start to get a little bit down, it's not so hard to imagine anymore, is it? One thing's for sure, and it's that the framework is beginning to form. So now, I just let my imagination run wild, as I imagine all the different colors and all the different ways this painting will look in the end. But strangely enough, it never quite looks like what I think, whether that be in a good way or a bad way. Though it always has a way of working itself out. So, what will it be in this case? I guess there's only one way to find out. So it seems we've run into a bit of an issue here, and quite a big issue at that. Paint does not stick to the back of this phone. I probably should have tested this before, but I guess I just assumed that Posca markers would work since they're meant for glass and I've used them on glass many times before. But on this phone, nothing. The paint just slides right off. I think this is due to some kind of water repellent coating, which makes sense for a phone, but also makes painting of any kind impossible. so we'll need to resort to plan B. I wanted to avoid this, but it seems we can't escape the sanding. I've made this extra complicated for myself though, because I don't want to sand everything. So first, we'll need to mask off everything that we want to save, with some black electrical tape. I just love the color of this phone way too much, so I really want to remain as the background of our card. And this was no problem before, but now I need to precisely outline our Charizard with the tape, using a crafts knife to cut any excess. I'll also take advantage of the situation to make something of an outline on this glossy black part. I guess every cloud really does have a silver lining, doesn't it? Our pencil alone didn't work here, but if we get some tape down, we can draw on top of that, and then simply cut it out. And finally, I may as well also use this time to tape up the edges of the phone, which we don't want to accidentally sand or get any paint on. And with that, everywhere the tape is now is safe and won't be touched at all. But everywhere that isn't will be painted and now needs to be sanded. So with that comes the painful part. I've got some extra fine steel wool here, which I'll use to gently sand the back of the phone. This will hopefully create some surface tension on the glass, where there previously was none, so that now the paint will have something to adhere to. I also invented this sanding pen, which is just that regular pen that I duct tape some sandpaper to. I know it looks scuffed, but it's actually really helpful for getting as close to the tape as possible. There's no going back now though, because sanding is essentially a fancy word for scratching up my beautiful brand new phone. But of course we'll paint over it later, so it doesn't really matter. Wow, where did the time go? For you guys, it was only a matter of minutes. But for me, this was an entire day's work. Doing this right was not easy, because anywhere that isn't properly sanded, even the tiniest section, the paint simply won't stick to. But it's finally over, and I'm beyond tired, so I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. The sun sets, but always rises anew, and now I can admire my hard work in a new light, literally. But even after all of this, it's still not working quite as I would like it to. The surface is just not as smooth as I need for painting. But there's no going back now. My phone is a scratched up mess, and I can't just quit. We need this to work. I just don't know what to do. But at times like this, I think it's best to just forget about it, to get out and clear my head, rather than pointlessly worry. So, why don't you guys come along with me? Maybe, along the way, we'll find a solution. At the very least, something always has a way of turning up. Right now, I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. I feel like this project was way too ambitious. I'm worried that I messed up an expensive phone and an awesome video. I just don't know how I can possibly get this done. But alright, this is my moment of panic. I've now experienced it, but now I'm going to put it aside. This is a nice spot. I think I'll go ahead and close my eyes for a moment. I know that failure is not an option. Even the sanded surface of my phone is not good for painting. So, how can I fix it? Well, I'll need to create a surface that is. And how would I normally do that? If I were painting anything, I'd need a coat of primer. That's what I'll do to fix this. Come on, let's go. I'll need a can of white spray paint. If I can spray my phone with it, it should stick due to the sanding. It should create a perfect surface for painting. And because it's spray paint, it should be able to get right up to the tape. Awesome. I think this one right here will be perfect. While we're out though, I might as well also grab a few more essentials. Obviously, we can't do without, right? But now that we've got everything, let's do this. we're back home, and now I'm more ready than ever to get this done. I'm also on a bit of a sugar rush from that ice cream. But we'll grab some blue masking tape, and we'll use it to replace our black electrical tape. The electrical tape did its job and survived the sanding, but just barely. And we definitely don't want any of the spray paint leaking over into that background we worked so hard to save. I'll also make sure to mask off the rest of the phone, because as important as the artwork is, I also wouldn't want paint getting into any ports or buttons. The worst would be for us to go through all of this and then have the phone not work. But with that, we've got our phone all masked off. Everything should be fully protected now, except for that scratched up mess of a surface. And we're ready to move on to the spray paint. This is actually my very first time using spray paint, so I'll be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing here. But my dad told me to make sure I spray evenly and sparingly, or else I might overdo it. But fortunately, I think I did just fine for my first time. In fact, dare I say, it's actually looking pretty darn good. Certainly, decent enough for painting, which is all that matters. But we're not quite out of the woods yet, because for the best possible results, we'll need a second coat. So I'll have to wait for the paint to dry, before gently sanding the surface down. And then, once more, the spray paint. But this time, I let my dad do it. Don't worry though, I told him I'm just working on some art, so he has no idea what this is. But now, I'm excited, because with that, our surface is all primed up, and finally, 100% workable. So now, I'll need to grab the pencil one more time. The worst part about our plan B is that we sanded off and now spray painted over our original sketch. So I'll need to completely redo it, which sucks because that last one was perfect. But at least it's a lot easier this time around, because now we do have that tape outline. Though I've still got to be careful, because this sketch is what our final painting will be based off of. So it's super important that we do a good job. And luckily, I think we did. But as the days quickly ticked away, I soon found myself at the end of August and the end of summer vacation. I couldn't tell you where the time had gone, but once again, the school year has begun. I could no longer wake up every single day out in nature and ready to spend the entire day filming. Very quickly, I fell back into the monotony of routine in a bustling and chaotic world, full of assignments and due dates and grades and never quite enough time to do any of it. But it wasn't all bad. And soon enough, I was back home for reading week. It's been a while since I last saw this thing. A few months, really. I left so soon after finishing this sketch that I never got a proper look at it. But I think we did a good job, didn't we? And we're so close. So let's not spend any more time doing anything else. This is where everything comes together. What everything we've done has been working towards. That is, well, I think you can see for yourself. It's the painting. The yellow border was a bit of a warm-up for me. A simple and accessible way to just start. But now, we'll move on to the bottom section of our phone. This is actually the part I'm most scared of. So, I want to get it done early, while my mind is still super fresh. I was thinking of taking a more minimal approach here, but ultimately, I decided to go the detailed route. So, I'll be trying my best to replicate the actual card, more or less, 1-to-1. Which means, this is the only part of our card that will require blending. Obviously, Posca markers are, well, markers, so it's impossible to blend in the way I want to, using them alone. And so, I'm using the paint of the markers, but with a paintbrush instead. I'm also mixing in some acrylic paint, so that I have a little more freedom when it comes to the colors. It works, but it's pretty scuffed. The paint was almost working against me here. It refused to spread much at all and also dries incredibly quickly. We're talking literal seconds, so I had to work extremely fast. But even then, there was only so much I could do. Yet, in the end, especially with the text to tie it all together, I think it turned out pretty darn cool. But now, let's go ahead and pick out a nice, flaming orange marker. Because it's finally time to paint our Charizard. And guys, this is quite a unique experience. I've never painted on anything even remotely as expensive as this. But even more so, the stakes have never been so high. Because I've got one shot. I'm not buying another phone, so I've got to get this right the first time. Posca markers are a lot of fun. It feels like a good marker, providing a nice, thick, and bold color, but it's also got the free-flowing nature of paint. So I'm glad they ended up being so great and so forgiving, because Charizard definitely needed it. I've gotta say, as things went wrong and my plan changed a lot, I became increasingly skeptical, but I think that worry was for nothing. This Charizard is looking insanely cool. I just can't wait to see how it'll look when it's done. Wow, there it is. Our Charizard painting is complete, and I could not be happier. But now, it's time for what is, by far, the most satisfying part. And that is, of course, sealing the tape and revealing the completed phone. So let's do it. I'll also do some cleaning up of the edges, using the blade of my crafts knife, and also some isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip, just to give it a more polished and clean look. Wow, guys, I could not be happier with the way this thing turned out. I think it looks awesome, but I'm worried it may not stay this way. It looks great now, but remember, I'm giving this phone to my dad to hopefully use as his daily driver. So, some wear and tear is to be expected. And obviously, this painting would not withstand much. So, we've got to protect it. So to do that, I went ahead and bought some clear film for the back. Essentially, just like a screen protector. This should seal the painting and protect it from any debris or scratches, keeping it looking mint forever. And the installation process is also just like a screen protector. So let's go ahead and apply that on all three segments of the phone. I'll need to be super careful here, making sure to align these as precisely as possible. So there we go. All that's left to do now is to put on a clear case, just for some extra protection, which I think my dad will definitely need, while still allowing him to show off that artwork. And with that, the phone is officially ready to be given away.
why would you ruin perfectly good phone?
Hello? I'm glad you're liking your new flip phone, Dad. A Nintendo Switch. That could be interesting.